and happy Friday to you. You are listening to the Agent Survival Guide podcast, Friday 5, our weekly list of 5 things you should know about. I'm your host, Sarah Rueppel, ready to wrap up another week and get into Mother's Day weekend. Consider this your reminder to go grab a card, some flowers, and a gift if you have not already done so. Now, let's get into our list. Coming in at number 5, pharmacy chain Rite-Aid has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Again. This time around, though, it's not looking great. The first time Rite-Aid filed for bankruptcy was back in 2023. In September of 2024, things were looking up. They had secured funding, they were able to exit bankruptcy. Now, just 8 months later, the pharmacy is, quote, pursuing a strategic and value-maximizing sale process for substantially all of its assets, end quote. Rite-Aid started out here in Pennsylvania and expanded their footprint nationwide, growing to the 3rd largest pharmacy in the country at one point. According to reports, only a handful of stores have closed their doors for good upon the Chapter 11 filing. As for the rest of the stores, Rite-Aid recommends checking the store locator list on their website. Locations that have closed have already been removed from the list, like the one in Kutztown, PA, home of my alma mater. Rite-Aid did send out a letter to its customers, letting them know about the bankruptcy filing, what will and won't be available, and when it comes to the pharmacy side of things, the piece of this that will affect your clients getting their prescriptions filled at Rite-Aid. Most Rite-Aids will continue to operate as normal for the next few months. Pharmacy services like prescriptions and immunizations will be available, and they are, quote, working to facilitate a smooth transfer of customer prescriptions to other pharmacies, end quote. This is an example of great information to include in your newsletters. You can include the information in that letter, the link to the store locator, and the information that's detailed in there. You can also help remove some friction from the situation by helping your Rite-Aid pharmacy clients figure out where and when to make the move. We will have the links to a few articles and the resources I mentioned in the notes. Number 4, the countdown is on for Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference. June 9th marks the beginning of this year's event, so just 1 month from publication of this episode. Naturally, that means that Apple rumors are starting to pop up in the headlines more often than normal. WWDC is when we will see the first sneak peeks of what's in store for iOS 19 and iPadOS 19, among their other operating systems. And from what is being touted so far, this fall's update is set to be a huge overhaul. That's been reported by multiple sources, with Mac rumors highlighting, quote, icons, menus, apps, windows, and system buttons with plans to simplify navigation and control, end quote. They also suggest in their catch-all iOS 19 post that Mark Gurman, arguably the most accurate all things Apple insider, framed the update as the biggest in 12 versions, so all the way back to iOS 7. Given how much things have changed since then, I had to go back and look up features from that release, which dated back to September 2013. And it was a pretty big change. That was the update that switched our app icons from the skeuomorphic, glossy-looking buttons to flat graphics. That was a huge shift, and we'll be linking to a side-by-side comparison in the notes. Radical design shift aside, iOS 7 introduced so many Apple staples that I couldn't imagine my devices not having. AirDrop, Control Center, CarPlay, plus significant changes to the Notification Center and Siri. I've been following iPhone product cycles long enough to say that I'm pretty confident iOS 19 and iPad OS 19 will come pre-installed on the iPhone 17, which is set to come out at some point this fall. Next up, and this one I hesitate to mention given how Apple did with its last rollout of Apple Intelligence. There's talk of new AI features and more third-party integrations, but I would file this under wait and see. And quite honestly, I'm not sure I would hold my breath for the first iOS 19 release. Moving on, new to the lineup this fall, the iPhone Air is rumored to debut, but as I mentioned at the top, there are a lot of Apple rumors floating around. Another one suggests that this fall might be the last time we see all of the new iPhone models released at one time, aside from that base version, which usually comes out the following spring. That could mean that beginning in 2026, we'd get the Pro versions of the iPhone 18 and the foldable iPhone, with the other versions launching at later dates, possibly the spring of 2027. And then some other fun talk going around that the new iPhone Air will be super thin, but also possibly light in the battery life department. There are rumors of pushing Face ID under the screen in the iPhone 18. And then last but not least, speculation is already ramping up around the iPhone 20. Probably too soon to tell if we'll actually get an iPhone 19 or if Apple will skip the 19 moniker like they skipped the 9th in favor of having a version number that matches the anniversary date. We shall see, and I will definitely report back if I run across more sizable rumors. Number 3, scams are one thing that just never go away, and the latest one making the rounds involves insurance, so we've got to talk about it. Earlier this week, the Federal Bureau of Investigation published a public service announcement about discount medical insurance scams. There are a few variations on the scams being reported, but the end result is essentially the same. It starts with either an unsolicited phone call or an individual responding to an advertisement. Offers include discounts on medical insurance, offering cheaper insurance plans, help paying for groceries and gasoline, essentially savings of some sort if you just ... And the ... could include switching their plan, paying a year's worth of premium upfront, or a combination of the two. In the end, the individual is left either without money, without coverage, or both. And sometimes they only figure it out when they try to access care. Honestly, this is another great piece of information to add to your newsletters because the FBI kindly added in tips to protect yourself. If you send out a digital newsletter, you could break out those tips and then link back to the original publication. Client education is always a great idea because there are things that we can easily identify as suspicious behavior, but others outside of the industry may not realize. They might have heard about savings in passing and think that when one of these fraudsters contact them, it's legitimate. One of my relatives was convinced that he needed to act when he got a fraudulent Social Security letter. Some people are very trusting. Some are quick to misinterpret a communication. And in some of the examples mentioned by the FBI, there was an urgency to act quickly or the savings would be lost. There are a lot of takeaways that you can bring up with your clients. 3 that I can think of right off the bat. You can let them know when and how they're going to hear from you. If it's outside of that time frame, hang up or don't answer in the first place. Let them know that they can call you with questions. And also, let them know that they are the ones in the driver's seat making the decisions. There shouldn't be a great urgency to switch coverage unless the impetus came from their own needs. Just a couple of my takeaways there. And again, we will be linking to that PSA in the episode notes. Moving on to number 2, it is time for another Rueppel Recommends. We are in a new month, so that means new streaming picks, and I will get to that in a minute. But first, I have 2 book recommendations, one that I finished in April. The other I am still working my way through. Both of them, though, are available as audiobooks, and that is how I consumed them. The first, Careless People by Sarah Wynn-Williams. That was a fascinating listen. It's mostly about the time she spent at Facebook and her experience there, but there are other snippets of her time prior to Facebook. So the whole thing reads just like a memoir, and I think that's what makes it so compelling. If it had been framed any other way, I'm honestly not sure it would have been as interesting. And then the second that I am listening to right now, a recommendation from Christian Brindle, Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. I am 11 chapters in, and I have learned so much already. If you're looking for a good business book with actionable tips, I understand why Christian recommended it. I will probably be buying a copy to go back over certain sections because I think there is a lot that can apply for insurance agents. As I said before, I am still working my way through the book, but there is a lot of good stuff in there, and I don't think this is the last time you will hear it mentioned on the podcast. Now, moving on to streaming picks, because what fun would this be without that? I finally finished Resident Alien, which is a little bit sad because there won't be new episodes until possibly later this year. But it is pretty good timing for the start of a new season of Doctor Who, so I'm very excited about that. This one is an 8-episode series featuring Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor. This run began on April 12th and wraps up on May 31st, and the show is available on Disney+. Couple other picks. They're all mostly on Disney Plus this time around. That was not planned, but there is a new documentary on Genghis Khan that came out earlier in the month. That looks very interesting. 6 episodes, and it focuses on Khan and the Mongols. Today, the 3rd season of The Toys That Built America. That is another, not just documentary show that I enjoy, but a genre of documentary as well. I've watched a few docs on the subject, I've listened to more than a few podcasts, and it's always interesting to see what toys are featured and the stories that are told about that toy. On May 24th, The Wild Robot, which seemingly looks to be just like it sounds. A robot crash lands on a planet with no other robots, only animals, and calamity ensues. And then last on the list, coming to Netflix on May 31st, the Tadam live event, which previews upcoming movies and shows. That's designed to get investors excited primarily, but it works on subscribers like me as well. And now back to the news with our final mention. Topping our list this week, CVS Health Plan's decision to leave the Affordable Care Act marketplace. Last Thursday, CVS announced the move, which will affect almost 1 million beneficiaries across 17 states. I wanted to touch on this today because we are just about to wrap up a focus on ACA sales. Tina's been working hard to bring that information to you, and the episode we published on Monday is going to be particularly helpful. So if you haven't listened to that, it'll be linked in the episode notes. If you have a lot of ACA business in your books, you do business in those states, and that business is largely with Aetna, the marketplace carrier under the broader CVS umbrella, That episode will be beneficial. It details how coverage crosswalks work in the ACA marketplace. Tina updated it with the most recent information available, so we do address the final, not so final rule considerations in the episode. The change goes into effect for coverage year 2026, so consider this a heads up well in advance of the 2026 open enrollment period. This is something that you'll want to be prepared for. Another way to make sure you are updated on the latest news, follow along with our podcast. It is a great way to make sure you don't miss out on industry news. In addition to information and training, we know there's a lot to keep track of, from certification season all the way through the end of both the annual and open enrollment periods. We aim to bring you what you need to know so you can keep yourself informed and on track. You can follow along with us in your podcast directory of choice. Just click the follow button and you'll be good to go. And we will get a huge smile on our faces when we see that little +1 come through on our side. I hope you have a great weekend and happy Mother's Day to all the women listening. Stay healthy and stay safe out there, and we will see you next week. The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written and produced by me, Sarah Rueppel. Script editing and fact check by Tina Lamoureux. Podcast design by Urban Rivera. Rate and review our show on Apple or Spotify.